Well, I've had a few people asking questions about adjustment. It's something that we haven't really covered in the paper instructions very well. So I thought I'd do a video. I do listen to feedback, so we will add that to the paper instructions in future. Now, it's a cut down version, so the handle's not finished or anything, but you'll get the idea. So there's a number of ways that you can adjust for distance, and we had a couple of people say, well, you know, they push this as far back as it will go, and so it's nearly touching there, and it's still not giving them 4 inches. The way we send them out in such a way, obviously they're being bashed about in the post. Although they're in a foam box, I don't think you can be too careful. So what we do is we put them at the optimum position for shipping, which are going to be most protected. So there's a number of ways that you can adjust that distance, that starting distance. One is obviously with this. Yeah, so you can adjust with that. If you can't get enough distance with that, then what you can do, that's the second largest Allen key that it comes with. The other thing that you can do is you can slacken the grub screw on the gear and you can push that out. Okay, so you can push that out and have it on the end as well. Okay, so you can adjust there. Now, if you've then got the head on and that, and you're still not able to do 4 inches or 100 centimetres, which some people are striving for, then all you need to do is very simple. Let me just nip this up. There's a couple of little important steps that you need to follow. Okay, so if we just slacken these wheels, right, what you will see on here is 2 screws in here. Okay, so you can move those in or out depending on what you're actually after, but you can't do that until the gear has been slackened. So if I just use the smallest Allen key, slacken the gear, then what you can do is use the biggest Allen key. If we look here, just see if I can just zoom that a bit better. Right, so put it either side of the belt. So if we slacken that, don't take them out, just slacken them. Right, so now you can move this in or out. Yeah, so if you need like a couple of millimeters, then you can move it further out. Now, let's say we're going to move that out. Move it out to the outer extremities. Let's undo that gear. There we go. So we just move that. There you go. Right. The drive shaft doesn't need to engage in them. It doesn't engage in those sides. What those outside holes are, which I'll show you in a second, we'll just nip that up. And nip that up. What those outer holes are, if we show you, let's see if we can zoom in there. That is an alignment window. So you need to make sure that the gear is in, it don't have to be absolutely in the centre, but at least not touching that outer side. That's why that hole's bigger. And what that does is it gives you an idea so that you can hold it in position and then tighten it up. And just give it another check, just make sure that that is centralised, yeah? So at least it's not touching that outer side. Same on the other side, because when you adjust one, then you see that's now touching. So I have to just slacken it off. And slacken it off a teeny bit. And then I've got some movement. And then I look at the end. There you go. It's not foul on the side. You'll know if it's foul on the side because it'll make a horrendous noise when you're using the hook tie. Okay, and we can nip those both up. And now we've just added some length, some extra length. And we know that as far out as it will go with the drive shaft, that's easy clear of 4 inches or 100 centimetres. It gives you a lot more. That's your fine tuning. When you've done your fine tuning, when you're doing your fine tuning of this, just remember that the length of the shank of the hook affects the length of the hook length that comes off the machine. Okay? So, in theory, if the shank is longer, so let's say you've got 1 millimetre more shank sticking out, then that's going to affect the length of your hook length. So when you go down a size hook, you might find that when you go longer or longer shanked hooks or shorter shanked hooks, that your starting point on the wheel might be just short of the line, or it might be just beyond the line. You don't have to adjust it each and every time. You'll get a feel over time for different hooks at which position that needs to be, so that you've got it under tension. So for example, let's say, you know, I had the head on here and I tied a hook length and it's come off 10 mil too short, right? If it's 10 millimeters too short, I would adjust it outwards this way on here by 5 millimeters. Why 5 millimeters? Because you want the hook length to be under tension in your box, and even though on short hook lengths you'll still get an amount of stretch, and it just keeps it nice and straight in your hook box. If you're 10 mil short and you adjust that by 10 mil, yeah, it's going to be the right length, but it's going to be slack in your box and it's going to be falling out of your wallet. So just think about that and think about how much tension you want on your hook length before you do that final adjustment. So when you first receive your hook tire, I would say to people, put it on the marker, tire hook length, put it against your wallet, and if it's 3 inches bang on, perfect, if you're going to use 3-inch hook lengths. Because then, to do a 4-inch hook length, all you're having to do is 1/2 rotation. Because that adds 1 inch, exactly. But if it's exactly 3 inches and you want it to be 4 inches, and you do half a rotation exactly, it's going to be slack in your box. So you can do one or two things. You can adjust that out by a couple of mil and make it a little bit shorter, or quite simply, when you do your half a rotation, just stop just before the line, because circumference equates to a lot more than distance. So you don't need to be that much off on here to actually make a big difference to the distance. Okay, or to the length, should I say, not the distance. The other thing I would say is we've had one customer that rounded the grub screw in here. I mean, these are strong grub screws, yeah. You don't need to be over tightening anything. You know, just a little nip, that's all it is. Same with the gears, just a little nip, that's all you need. With these, I tend to nip them, but you know, just normal. Just don't overdo them. I think we had one that sheared the head off. No, I mean, these are made out of steel, you know. One thing I would say is, when we look at belt tension, let's say you're using it and the heads are going out of sync, and it's quite possible that one of the belts or one of these has actually been moved in transit. So you can adjust the tension of the belt by slackening these screws off, right? So if you slacken that screw, you see, you can tension that belt easily. Now if you do that screw and it's tight, yet it hasn't tightened up against here, it's because we use T-nuts, and them T-nuts, they lock into place in the extrusion. Okay, so if you tighten it, you know, quite tight, and it's not actually clamping to this, it's because the T-nut's not turned. Don't just think that you know, horsing it up even more, because you'll just shear the head off the screw. So all you have to do in that scenario, if you've slackened it off and that T-nut has not turned, I mean, you can look in the end, you can actually see whether it's turned or not. If it hasn't, just slacken it off quite a bit, not too much that the T-nut comes out, and then slacken it off and retighten, and you'll find that just slacking it off that little bit just helps it turn when you go to tighten it up again. And again, it doesn't, you see there, belt's too slack. So what do? Just tension it. I'm happy with that. Ah, see? So that's tight. T-nut's not. Slacken it off. There you go. And the T-nut's turned. And now, yeah, it's nice. It's under tension. And it's working, and you just nip the other side up. But you just slack them off, tighten them up. But like I say, if it's tight yet it's not locking on here, it's because the T-nut hasn't turned. The T-nuts that we use are drop in and turn T-nuts. So we can drop them in and then we turn them. As they tighten up, they turn and then they lock in place. Just bear that in mind if you ever come in the future to adjusting the belts. Like I say, the only time you'll find that it's going out of sync is if maybe it's really been bashed in the post and this has moved down. Everything is adjustable and it's pretty straightforward, I believe. One other thing that we have noticed with the neoprene, that the foam wheels, if they're in a downward position, they can be a little bit lower than what the neoprene is. So it can, if you find that it's moving when you're using it, just look at one end and then just back it off one of the thumb screws so that the point is not pointing down, and then that just makes sure it's clear, and then the neoprene can really do its work. All it is the first lot of neoprene that we got was quite stiff. It was actually closed cell neoprene and it just didn't work, it did not grip and it wasn't good enough. So we used the softer open cell neoprene, which does grip, stops from moving at all. The problem with that is the weight of the machine does put it down so that it can foul those thumb wheels if it's in the downward position. If you're unlucky enough, it's not going to affect anything because you can get quite a turn on that. It's not going to actually make that loose. So you just turn it so that the point's not pointing down, so it's in between, it's on flat, and then it's perfectly usable and works great, like I say. So if you're using the machine and you find that it moves a little bit, just have a look at the position of what the points are then. Just back that up. Some little tips there. I hope that helps. Hope that clarifies a bit more about how you can adjust to set it up for your first time. Once you've got it set up, that's it. Half a rotation adds an inch. 2 rotations add 2 inches. Dead simple. And if you're doing a 6-inch hook length, for example, and you've set it up for 4, then it's just 1 full rotation. But I always stop just before the line, and it just gives it that little bit of tension so that it won't come off the prongs in your wallet. You want it under some tension. Okay? Hope that helps, and very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.